Russian parliament wants to register and control bloggers now. Russian senator proposes Russian families buy horses for transportation. The utilities start falling all over Russia. It's going to be a very long winter. And the government of Belgorod province knows that. It's stockpiling on firewood and wood stoves. First double tax is introduced in Russia. Internet advertising will be taxed. The federal minister admits for the first time that Russian servicemen of the Russian armed forces have looted abandoned houses in Kursk province. Egg lines are back, in Kamchatka this time. And the biggest news of this week is Russian ruble value landslides. Now $1 can buy 103 Russian rubles. That and other economic news prove that the economic tsunami is right here. Howdy, howdy, friends. My name is Konstantin, and welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. Welcome to Fridays. I give you crazy Friday news update, straight out of the mad circus that Russia has become. First things first, there is no such absurdity that cannot be realized in Russia these days. Please remember that. And the news, I call them crazy news from Russia. The news of Russia that matter and that you will not find in any mainstream media. Something has recently changed. I used to search for crazy news out of Russia. Now, all I have to do is listen to Russian officials. Most news coming out of them are crazy. Russia is really in turmoil. And this week, well, it's the craziest week so far. Now let's get straight to the news. You know what? There will be a lot of serious and bad news for Russia today in today's update. So let me start with a few good news. I must admit I'm a critic of Russian parliament. Well, Russian senators really. But Russian senators sometimes do good things. They actually care about Russian citizens. You know, family values and so forth. Just look at this news. The Russian parliament discusses creation of the register of bloggers who support family values. The National Registry of Bloggers who promote traditional family values may be introduced in Russia, most likely will be introduced soon. According to the Senator Yana Lantratova, the corresponding proposal made by the Senator Tatyana Burtskaya during a meeting of the state Russia's parliament working group on improving legislation on the blogosphere. In addition to the registry, legislators proposed to develop comprehensive measures of state support for bloggers promoting traditional family values. Fantastic news! You know, I promote family values. I'm a family man. I'm a father of 5 children, and I'm a very proud father. So I close my eyes and imagine a Russian senator all of a sudden in near future calling Google and says, hey, why are you so unfair to the blogger Konstantin? Why did you demonetize his channel? Monetize. He's a good guy. He promotes family values. He's great. Promote his channel. Tell your algorithm to show the videos to more people. Do it. Do it now. Then a good senator would pick up phone and call me. Hey, no worries, Konstantin. Everything's taken care of. You know, Google will monetize you immediately because I said so. Well, we'll take it even further. Why we have decided to reward you? Come and pick up your bonus, 5 million rubles. Let's make it 15 million because you're such a great guy. And I would ask, what have I done, to deserve a lot of money? And the good senator would answer, why do you care? It's taxpayers' money. They won't know, we won't tell them, just get the money and go. What a future for family values bloggers. Not so fast. I'm not sure about bonuses. The senator is actually not saying anything about monetary support. I kind of made it up, I'm sorry. 15 million rubles. No. But they are sure discussing responsibilities of bloggers to combat unsubscribe, the bad information. The Institute for Internet Development in Russia, it's IRI, according to the Senator Landratova, proposed to develop requirements for obtaining a mandatory identifier for each blogger and each product, informational product, that is a live stream or a video or educational program such blogger creates. A mandatory digital token would be assigned to each blogger. Commenting on this initiative, Boris Yedin, the deputy director of the legal affairs of this institute, noted that in order to obtain an information product identifier, aka token, a blogger would need to provide information about her education, ideological or educational program embedded in their product, and other information agreed upon by the lawmakers. Let me quote, "We will be able to see who the author is, who the actual provider of the service, and what is this service or product consists of." Yedin added, "This monitoring can be done by both consumers and law enforcement agencies." I unquote. So soon Russian bloggers will be licensed. Blogging license will cost a pretty penny, of course, and then the money will go to the budget. What you don't expect to have a free license, do you? Yeah, you got to pay for it. So the bloggers will be licensed, regulated, and monitored by the KGB. And that is all under the source of supporting family values bloggers. And of course, those bloggers who do not support family values and support something else, they will not be licensed. Therefore, they'll be outlawed. What a brilliant idea, Fantastic. Life in Russia is getting better and better. But wait, that's not the only good news coming from Russian parliament. The good Russian Senator Milonov, you know the guy, he proposed to use the maternity capital for purchasing of horses instead of cars as a means of transportation for large Russian families. The maternity capital in Russia is a lump sum paid to women by the government when they have children. Around $6,000 for the first child and $8,000 for a second child. Maternity capital can be used to buy a house or apartment, to renovate existing house and apartment, to use it as a down payment for mortgage, to buy something new. Basically it's oriented to improve living conditions of large families. Maternity capital goal is to help families with children to improve their lives. And now the government is discussing to allow maternity capital for car purchases. And the Senator Milonov is firmly against it. The very same man who recently proposed to oblige all people who like Harry Potter books to be treated by psychiatrists because they're nuts. He argued that cars are not good. They depreciate and they are unsafe, especially in icy conditions. And the maternity capital could be wasted in an event of an accident. Milonov proposed maternity capital to be used for purchases of horses as an excellent way of transportation in Russia. And horses, of course, are made in Russia, too. You know, folks, at this point, you might think, oh, Konstantin is getting old. He's losing it. Too much stress, malnutrition, and malnourishment. Konstantin is hallucinating. What in the world is he talking about? This is so crazy. It's impossible. Cannot be real. Well, stress? Yes, plenty of stress. But no malnourishment here. Friends, just look at the size of my face. I'm eating well. Here is something to prove my words, because I don't like to say things just to say things. I like to prove them with pictures or videos. Check this out. The good Senator Milonov speaks. He's talking about the maternity capital, about how great this idea is. Good Russian senators. No, don't get the car. It's a bad investment. You buy a car today and tomorrow you get in a car accident, and that's it. Your car is gone. Funny. A senator says, well, what if you buy a house and the house burns tomorrow? That's a very good point. Oh, horse. Horse is made in Russia. So, this is it. Milonov proposes that Russians use maternity capital to buy horses. What can I say? It is crazy, yes. I also think that's beyond crazy. But this is fall of 2024, and this is Putin's Russia for you. Now, another news is significantly indicative. This is the center of a large city called Rostov-on-Don, the city where I grew up, and I was born and I grew up in. Check this out, what happened in Rostov today. That is boiling water, by the way. This is a major breakdown in city's centralized heating supply system. This is boiling water squishing out of the heat main. Again. One more time. Absolutely crazy. Obviously, this shouldn't be happening. This is a major breakdown. This is not safe. It's not good. This is an early bird showing us what is to come to Russia, what is coming soon. Rostov is a southern city. It's still warm in Rostov. No freezing temperatures so far. Very warm. It's like foliage season there. And the pipes are breaking already. Rostov is not the first city that has registered utilities problem. Novosibirsk was the first. Novosibirsk is a city far away in the heart of Siberia, and it has much harsher climate. They have snow already, and they have sub-zero temperatures. First cold weather caused a breakdown in city's centralized heating supply system, and about 67 tenement blocks, that's about 30,000 people, were left without heat for some time. It's going to be a very long winter. in Rostov and in other Russian cities, it's going to be a very long winter. No, it's going to be a very long decade. Now, let's ask a question. Why is this happening all over Russia? All of a sudden, I have the answer for you. The utilities lack funding. Russia has spent more than $18 billion on airstrikes in Ukraine, according to open data. Now, this is what could be spent on. Those money could be spent on. $18 billion. Total spending on missiles and drones amounted to 1.8 trillion rubles. That is about 18 billion US dollars. This is more than all the expenses for the education system in Russia in 2024. So Russia could have taken those money and double funded its educational system, make it twice as good. This amount is equal to all medical expenses in the country in 2024. This amount would be enough to bring 2/3 of all housing and communal services systems, the utilities in entire Russia, to an ideal state in a very short time. Everything, including plumbing, power grids, power plants, centralized heating systems, sewage, and so on. Full gasification of the entire country would cost just 1 trillion. That is significantly less that has been spent on missile strikes. The price of new infectious disease hospital in Saratov, one of Russia's largest cities, that was commenced recently with 400 beds, cost 1.2 billion Russian rubles. 1,500 such hospitals could be built for the funds of the shelling of Ukraine. 17 brand new cutting-edge hospitals in each province of Russia. The cost of a new school in Moscow is about 1.7 billion rubles. 1,058 similar schools could be built in Russia, 12 in absolutely every province of Russia. In 2024, the total amount of overdue loans in Russia reached 1 trillion rubles. Russian government could simply repay this amount in full by paying all personal debts in the country. This is exactly why boiling water is gushing out in Russian cities, out of the ground. Because instead of fixing Russia, fixing everything, they're waging the war on Ukraine. Now, this is, moving on. This is the news that came from the government of Belgorod province. Well, the governor of Belgorod province, his last name is Gladkov. He's being honest for a change and saying that his province is up for a very challenging winter. There might be shortages of natural gas and electricity blackouts. To prepare, the local government is taking steps. It is stockpiling firewood and purchasing generators and wood stoves. Check this out.
Ни хорошо, ни плохо, да, я не знаю, что будет через минуту или что происходит в эту секунду. Но на сегодняшний день мы достаточно планомерно с точки зрения картирования риска.
The governor says he has no clue what's coming to the province, but they're trying to lower the risks. They're getting ready for a very, very harsh winter. There's going to be shortages, gas shortages, blackouts. This is the press conference of Vyacheslav Gladkov, the governor, And it's televised and it's being shown everywhere. Now, stockpiling firewood and buying wood stoves. And this is the reality of Putin's Russia in the year of 2024 AD. And if anyone told me of this 10 years ago, I think he was insane. How? No, this is absolutely insane. Firewood and wood stoves. Incredible. It looks like we are the insane ones. We have allowed that to happen to our country, okay? It's incredible. Speaking of the utilities, this is St. Petersburg today. Check this out. This is how city management is fighting icing of roads and pavement. You know, this is a fairly small picture, but you see up front there's a pile of salt. They just throw piles of salt on the streets. Some might say, well, some city workers didn't do a good job. That's all. A lot of residents of St. Petersburg are absolutely irate about that because that's definitely not good for the ecology, for the environment, for, people breathing this stuff, and then it's not good for their shoes. It's just, this is terrible. There's huge piles of salt. Well, to me, it's not just people are not doing a good job. No, far from it. To me, that's an indication of severe lack of employees. They simply don't have enough people to do the job properly. So they just throw salt left and right in piles and leave. And where are all the people? Well, if you want to find people who should be doing that job, go southwest, go to Ukraine. They are either dead or in the front lines. That's where they are. And there's certainly no people to work on the streets of St. Petersburg. And by the way, one more time. This, my friends, is how unemployment rate of 2% that Vladimir Putin is so proud about and brags about it all the time. 2%, that's how it looks like. And it's not just St. Petersburg, that's all over Russia, all over Russian cities. The next news is from the south of Russia, a large city of Taganrog. The Federal Security Service, what used to be known as the KGB in the USSR, conducted searches at the house and the office of the police Colonel Vladimir Grekov, the head of city's federal police. The insider sources report that the searches were related to the criminal investigation involving traffic police officers' corruption. The charges are, and the arrests are, well, the charge and the arrests and his arrest are coming. I think they're following very soon. I selected it for Friday News Update to show that Russia is feverish. Cases like this one happen all over Russia every day. I see them. They're not big generals arrested, but they're semi-colonels or majors here and there every single day. Charges, corruption. There's a huge power struggle between the Siloviki agencies in Russia, and it's intensifying. To me, this indicates cracks in the foundation of the power system that Vladimir Putin has transformed Russia into. This power system is called the vertical of power. It's cracking up. It's not sustainable. It's not gonna last forever. We are seeing the start of big troubles in the vertical of power. And these are examples, small examples, paint me a big picture. Let's move to the news from Russian prisons. One of the prisons, called Matroskaya Tishina, a known Russian prison, was one of the prisoners there was forbidden to mention political prisoners in letters to his family and friends because they don't have them in Russia. Employees of this prison, Matroskaya Tishina, pretrial detention center and the prison, planned I'm sorry. Gotta take a sip of this wonderful English breakfast tea. Extra strong by Twinings. So, the employees of this prison banned programmer Ilya Vasilyev from using the phrase political prisoners in his private letters. On November 15th, Vasilyev, who is charged with spreading fakes about Russian army, probably he was telling the truth. So he said that he does not receive some of the letters sent to him, and his correspondence does not reach some recipients. 3 days later, the prisoner was called to a prison employee who returned him a stack of letters and stated, "You write political prisoners, but you can't do that because we have no political prisoners in Russia. We just have prisoners." Wow. That is another proof that Russia has gone back to the USSR. Because I saw this "we don't have political prisoners in the country" crap before. I saw it. I smelt it. It smelled like crap. I felt it. We all did in the old country. And it's hard to believe that the old nightmare has come back. And it's beyond crazy. Folks, this is surreal. Before moving to the next news, I'd like to thank everyone. Thank you for watching right now. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for liking. Thank you, those of you who bought me coffees at buymeacoffee.com. I'm back at buymeacoffee.com. Thank you, those who supported me through Patreon and through PayPal. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone who's been sending me letters, emails, messages, prayers, praying for me, and sending love. Thank you so very much. Just know that it inspires me and gives me energy to move forward. The next news comes from Russian Parliament again. Them good Russian senators, caring for Russian people. The law on expropriation of incomes for those Russians who left Russia is becoming a reality. The law on special accounts for foreign agents was adopted by the parliament in the first reading. According to this new law, those Russians who are labeled foreign agents, that's kind of a seal of approval these days, seal of quality, seal that you are still remain a decent person. Anyway, those who are labeled foreign agents will be required to open a special bank account to which the specified royalties and incomes will be transferred to. Really, no matter what the person earns in Russia will be transferred to such account. Such accounts will be controlled by the state, of course. And spending money from such specific bank accounts will be allowed only to the state budget. Basically, the owners of these bank accounts, special bank accounts, will have to will have no control over their money whatsoever, over earned income. They will only be able to pay fines out of those bank accounts. Lower House Speaker Vyacheslav Volodin, the fella that, well from my reports, recalled that among the foreign agents, there are almost 500 foreign agents who have left Russia and currently residing abroad now. But they continue to earn money in Russia. For example, they rent out their apartments, real estate, houses, or they receive royalties in Russia. And most of them openly demonstrate hostility to the Russian state. That is a sin. The authorities previously promised that the new law would apply to all Russians who left the country. And those Russians will be punished, stripped of all income in Russia, of course, if they allow themselves to criticize Putin's regime and the state. They will be punished in that case, banned from selling their homes, receiving income from anything really in Russia. And that is another proof that Russian government has declared a war on us. The next news also comes from the Ministry of the Ministry of Offense of Russian Federation. We used to say, where is Gerasimov? Well, looks like the fires of hell have consumed him finally. And the next question is, where is Konashenkov? The chief spokesman of the Ministry of Offense, Igor Konashenkov, this guy right here, has stopped appearing in the reports about the SVO, Special Military Operation. That's how they're calling the war that Russia is waging on Ukraine in Russia. He hasn't been seen for more than a month. The last video with Konashenkov's report was published on October 18th, covering the period from October 12th to the 18th. At the beginning of the conflict, he made reports from the front lines almost every single day, with only rare breaks for a few days. And just like that, he's gone. Looks like the fires of hell are busy now, taking more and more liars. And criminals too. By the way, this isn't the only interesting news that come out of Russia. The news like that, they're plentiful. They come out every single day. And I carefully select 9 news that matter. I put my commentaries and analysis, and I make them available to patrons of Inside Russia at patreon.com. There's plenty of news that matter. So if you want to keep up with the breaking news from Russia, but you don't know where to look for them, become patron of Inside Russia, and you'll find everything there. So let's move further. The next news is both crazy and amusing. Well, amusing if you're outside of Russia. Not so amusing if you're still living inside Russia. In the first days of January of this year, I made a forecast for 2024. And one of the items on that forecast was Russian state was going to introduce many new taxes, fines, and fees for Russian people, unseen before, unheard before. And my forecast has come true. But even I did not expect this. The latest and greatest is the new tax for advertising on the internet. Distributors of online advertising, that's companies who are, whose business is online advertising. Advertising system operators, bloggers, as well as intermediaries, advertising agents, will have to pay 3% tax now. All this will be controlled through advertising labeling, which means more control over the companies and people. It's not clear how labeling is going to be done for the advertising, but I'm sure they'll figure something out. They're very resourceful at the Russian government. Thank goodness that when someone sends me a coffee occasionally through Buy Me a Coffee, I don't have to pay 3% to Russian government. I only pay income tax in the USA, and that's it. And by the way, thank you so much, those of you who bought me coffees. Since I'm demonetized by Google, Buy Me Coffee, PayPal, and Patreon are the only means of my survival. So thank you so much, friends. Do you know what's interesting about this new law? It's a double tax. The first double tax I remember in Russia. Both advertising agents and internet platforms will be paying tax. Hey, Putin needs lots of money to continue building tanks and rockets he uses to kill more and more Ukrainians. More money, more blood for him. The next news comes from Moscow. Sad news. Two young Russian men, aged 26 and 28, just were sentenced to 2.5 and 3-year terms in low-security prison for kicking private army Wagner flowers. Check this out. Private army Wagner, created by Putin's cook Prigozhin, was a band of criminals released from prisons, pardoned by Putin, and sent to Ukraine. The scum of the scum of Russia, really. Murderers, rapists, cannibals, child molesters. Now, since private army Wagner was destroyed by Putin and Prigozhin was killed, it doesn't exist anymore. But there are some people in Russia who keep its memory. Bring flowers and so forth. And it tells a lot about some Russian people. No need to comment. We all understand who they are. That's just scum. But there are good Russians who don't want to live with Wagner memory. And they get prison terms for simply kicking vases with Wagner flowers. The next news comes from Kamchatka, Russia's far eastern region. The egg hunt began in Kamchatka. Check this out. You see this line right here? What about this one? These are egg lions. Petropavlovsk, that's the largest city in Kamchatka. Petropavlovsk residents line up in long queues to purchase several dozens of eggs at once. The reason for that? Well, no shortages of eggs. No. There are plenty of eggs in Petropavlovsk. It's just egg prices have risen sharply, and people seek stores where eggs are sold for less. The egg story repeats itself. There was an egg crisis in Russia in last December. It's pretty close to December. It's mid-November and, close to December. November 22nd. And the eggs are, reminding on themselves. I make a lot of videos where I explain current state of Russian economy. Well, I think this one picture, two pictures, they tell a lot. They tell more than 1,000 words. All you have to do to know things about current state of Russian economy now is in those pictures. People waiting in lines to buy cheap eggs. You know what? Back to the USSR indeed. And the next news is amusing. In St. Petersburg, a married couple, both employees of a military enlistment office, or I call them the mobilization center, they were sending non-existent people to the war. They had agreed, well, conspired really, with a friend who worked in an HR department of a local energy company to arrange for these dead souls to work for this company, fake employees, so to speak. Then the dead souls fictiously signed military contracts to go serve in the war. The one-time bonuses, sign-up bonuses, and monthly payments were split among the crooks. Now they're facing charges for fraud. I have two comments for this news. First is that these three people were caught and charged with fraud, but I am absolutely sure there are thousands of scams like that running all around Russia right now. And the second comment, I love it. I have nothing against these crooks. It's amusing. Please send more dead souls to the war. Hey, they can't take up guns and kill Ukrainians. Do it. Do it now. Do it more. The next news is actually very sad news. In Moscow, a 50-year-old crane operator was sentenced to 24 years in a maximum security prison. Prosecution was demanding 28 years. He was convicted of treason. His crime? He threw a Molotov cocktail at a mobilization center, the enlistment office, one of the offices in Moscow. The prosecution accused him of acting on orders from Ukrainian military, and he got paid for the act. The man denied accusations. 24 years in prison. For what? It's not much to say. It's very, very sad. Nothing to comment here. Please, listen to this. Before I move to the next news, I'd like to ask you a favor. First of all, like this video. Please, I've put a lot of efforts into making it. And then the second favor is, please let me know what do you think of the news selection down below in the comments when you are done watching this video. Do you like the news? Please pick 3 news that you really like the most, and let me know what they are. So it helps me to select news better in the future updates. Thank you so much. And the next news is sensational. Absolutely sensational. The former governor of Kursk province, Roman Starovoyt, who currently is a minister of transportation of Russia. It's one of the top people, Definitely reliable, definitely one of Putin's servants, definitely can be trusted. He publicly admitted that the Russian military looted houses in the villages of Glushkovsky district of Kursk province. Houses abandoned by local residents, Russian citizens, due to ongoing war in the province, were looted by the servicemen of Russian armed forces. I quote Starovoyt. About looting. Yesterday it was discussed at a meeting with the law enforcement agencies. There are facts of looting among both civilians and the military. There are facts that the loot was sent via delivery services to deep into Russia. I unquote. Starovoyt said that at the meeting with the residents of the Glushkovsky district, the video from the meeting was published by Kursk Now Telegram channel. And after his words, the audience began to applaud because this is the first time they heard something like that. The former governor also added that local law enforcement agencies have already been tasked with strengthening security in the area. I wonder if they have been tasked with finding the looters and prosecuting them. He didn't say anything about that. I have nothing to add. Truth always comes through. We know that the servicemen were looting before. Now it's the federal minister confirmed that. Unambiguously, in front of everyone, televised. Enough said. And the last news? I call today's news update the worst week ever. It's because everything in Russia is falling apart. It has been for 2 years now, but the state was sugarcoating, building Potemkin villages, trying to cover everything up with money, to flood, patch up with money. But now they have run out of money, ran out of sugarcoating. No one is playing the music and dining calmly on the Titanic, on the top floors, No, it's over. All understand that it's going down, and they're all running around trying to figure out what to do. This is where we are at right now. And there are some news for you to prove it. Potatoes are becoming a luxury food in Russia. Potatoes price has gone up by 67% in 2024. Potatoes have always been a food staple for regular Russian people. We never starved in the USSR because we had potatoes, flour, bread, baking flour, bread, and water. Take potatoes out of that equation and people would starve. Deputy Prime Minister of Russia, Dmitry Patrushev, who was the Minister of Agriculture until very recently, just announced that Russia plans to import potatoes due to growing demand. For the first time in Russian history, there's a growing demand for potatoes. Perhaps the good Deputy Prime Minister misunderstood something. Perhaps prices are rising not due to the increased demand. Hey, Russians can only eat so much potatoes, but prices are rising due to the decreased supply caused by crisis in the agricultural industry, and the former Minister of Agriculture is directly responsible for that. Perhaps because of that, the prices are going up. I think that this is something that needs to be investigated further. It's not just the potatoes. It's, most of food products going up and becoming less and less affordable for Russians. There's a full-blown crisis going on in the agriculture sector in Russia. So expect a live stream from me on this topic. Keep on tuning in. The fact that Russia is importing potatoes from other countries like Egypt and Turkey at the height of potato harvest, because Russia harvests potatoes in August and September. Usually this is where the prices for potatoes are the lowest, okay? And this historically domestically grown potatoes are always abundant now. Cheap. That's the cheapest stuff, cheapest food you can ever get in Russia, and they are out of it. And they're importing it from Egypt and other countries. That is just pathetic. It just tells you that Russia is being grossly mismanaged and it's going down the drain. And it's not just potatoes going up in price. No, it's everything. For example, milk. Milk producers have increased the prices also, but not so fast, producers. The Prosecutor General's office paid the major milk producers a friendly visit and had a talk with them. And later, very soon, the Prosecutor General's office stated that milk producers decided to lower milk prices back to the previous level due to, I quote, the lack of objective reasons for their increase. The companies like Wimbledon, Eco Milk, and other producers have reduced prices to their previous levels due to the lack of objective justification for the increase. Well, of course, prices for the equipment going up, that's not objective justification. Salaries of people who are involved, thousands, hundreds of thousands of them, the increase of salaries, no, of course, that's not justification. Inflation, the interest rate of 21%, that is built inside the price of milk. Of course, it's not justification. Well, can the Prosecutor General's office explain what would be the fair, objective justification for such price increases? According to the law enforcement agency statement, the decision to raise prices decisions of different producers were made without any objective economic reasons. You see, the Prosecutor General's office is not after criminals now. It's not looking for murderers and rapists and so forth. It's after milk producers, making sure they do not raise their prices. What's next? Will they go to small farmers and have talks with them too, and perhaps talk to their cows who they milk? Try to reason with cows? Interesting. Avtovaz. Avtovaz is Russia's largest car producer, manufacturer, or the only one left, really. The Avtovaz plant could go bankrupt if the authorities don't help it with money from the federal budget, according to Sergei Chemizov, the head of Rostech. Rostech owns around 80% of Russia's military-industrial complex. That's not just a company or a group of companies. That's a monstrous part of Russia. Let's put it this way. It also owns 31% of Avtovaz. Sergei Chemizov happens to be a very close friend of Vladimir Putin. They served as spies in East Germany a long time ago, and then they were neighbors. Okay, so just a coincidence, I'm sure. So the producer of Lada cars currently owes banks more than 100 billion rubles, that's $1 billion. And with the increase of the key interest rate to 21%, the burden on the company also increased even more, and debts have grown by tens of billions. In these circumstances, everything that Avtovaz earns would have to go towards paying interest to the banks, making production unprofitable. Well, Putin said many times that the international sanctions do not work. Russia has circumvented sanctions brilliantly. Well, looks like they are working pretty darn well for Avtovaz. Avtovaz plant could go bankrupt if the authorities don't help it, says Chemizov. You know what? That's how business works. If you aren't effective and if you don't make good products, and Lada cars, certainly not good product, go bankrupt, go to hell, cease to exist, die. Not a single penny for Avtovaz, not a single ruble or a kopeck should come from the taxpayers. Go down as fast as you can. Disappear from the map of Russia. The governor of Chelyabinsk region, his last name is Wexler, has proposed an idea of issuing so-called an investment digital ruble with restrictions on its flow into the consumer sector. Again, this is a very hard concept to understand. An investment digital ruble with restrictions on its flow into the consumer sector. Basically, he proposes to create a second currency, digital ruble, that will be only used in certain areas of the economy and won't be able to go to the consumers. He also suggests creating special digital coupons for certain goods at fixed prices sold at designated stores. For example, milk or butter, foods, clothing, basic clothing, stuff like that. So, such certain goods, their prices will be fixed and they will be sold for this new currency and they will be sold at the designated stores in a special distribution network, of course, controlled by the state. It is really difficult to understand what's going on in the minds of those in high positions who propose such initiatives. A non-flowing ruble, after all, is a miracle that defies rational explanation. However, economic miracles like that often lead to equally fascinating but always disastrous consequences on a national level. It's unbelievable. It's becoming worse than the USSR. We had the very same system, and I mentioned it a few times. Special stores, special currency called invalютный ruble or coupon. And those privileged ones could get it, and they would go to a special store, Berезka, with that special currency and would buy products at certain price. I'm telling you, it's becoming worse than the USSR. Wait until you hear the next news. Russia's Union of Business People and Manufacturers, yes, this organization like that exists. It has proposed to introduce temporary regulation of the exchange rate of Russian ruble to foreign companies, to foreign currencies, to ensure the normal functioning of the economy during a period of structural adjustment. The idea of calling the current economic situation a disaster, tsunami, perfect storm, calling it structural adjustment is rather absurd. It is a childish attempt to avoid facing the truth. Double or triple exchange rates are often signs of structural problems in the economy. It's in the first place, and this has become obvious in the countries like Iran, Argentina, and some others. You turn to this measure to introduce different, multiple exchange rates of your local domestic currency to foreign currencies when you are in so much economic trouble that you don't know what else to do. This is insane. It's hard to believe that the Union of Business People and Manufacturers is proposing this. And let me tell you, Russia has very lousy business people and manufacturers. Moscow State Currency Exchange introduces regulatory measures if exchange rate starts to fluctuate too much to foreign currencies. Basically, if ruble rate starts to be very volatile, it starts regulating the exchange rate. It will be done due to the fact that foreign currency, liquid assets really, is disappearing from Russia. The less currency you have, the more demand for it. Okay, the less dollars you have in the country, the more demand for dollars. And Moscow Currency Exchange knows that, and they're trying to prevent the exchange rate going volatility, to becoming very volatile because of that. So you can hardly call that Russian economy is only getting stronger from the sanctions. Again, like Putin brags about many times, has bragged about it. No, you can hardly call this measure proposed by the Moscow currency exchange economic stability. It's quite the opposite. That's the economic tsunami. And the last but not least, actually the most important news today is that Russian ruble has devalued a great deal. It went into a landslide today. Now $1 exchange rate is 102 rubles and 58 kopecks. That's the official exchange rate set by the Central Bank of Russia. And the market price of $1 is 103 rubles and 26 kopecks. I forecasted this exchange rate long time ago. To me, it's been obvious that Russian ruble is going to be devalued a lot, and this is just the beginning. You know what amazes me? So many Russians were shocked by the landslide of Russian ruble today. I made some efforts. I reached out to some people in Russia, my former colleagues, some of my friends, my former classmates, and so forth. And it's like they are all sleeping in some kind of lethargic sleep, and they don't understand what is going on around them. It's like you are in a ship, and around you is a huge storm, and you just don't care. What does it mean for Russian economy, the ruble exchange rate? It continues landsliding. It will continue. The inflation will jump even higher now. Prices for everything will increase even more. Russian people will become even poorer. The central bank will print even more money. Well, technically, it's not the central bank that prints money, but you get the idea. The central bank controls, makes the decision. $1 at 103 rubles is the proof that everything I have talked about in the last 2 years is the reality now. Everything is going according to Putin's plan, and the Russian people are picking up the bill. And now they start seeing the bill, and they start feeling the bill, smelling the bill, and I think they're not liking it. I will talk more of the economic news soon, because it's very important, and this is the foundation of Putin's regime, and it starts crumbling. Please keep on tuning in. And now I want you to go and see the video I made explaining how Russian men are selling their souls for the money. I'm gonna put a link right over here. Check it out.